All right, Shannon, you want to take it away?
Yep. All right. Lisa, you'll be able to get our attendance off the Zoom. Great, thank you. All right, so first item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Does anybody have any changes to our agenda? All right, if not, I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Ken.
Second.
Any seconds? Thank you, Ken. All those in favor?
Aye.
You can use the reactions like my Zoom.
Ready.
Oh, Rosanna's here.
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
the
Thank
agenda
you.
is approved, Rosanna.
Excellent. Excellent. Sorry I'm late. Got a new computer and apparently didn't have anything, so I had to download everything. I should have done that like an hour ago, but I was busy working. Anywho, okay. Let me open up the agenda again.
I just washed my computer and I can't do a thing with it.
Yeah. Okay. So we just approved the agenda. So minutes, December 18th minutes. Everyone get a chance to review them? If you have, I'll take a motion to approve. Unless anyone has any changes, edits.
So moved.
Thank you. Ken, is there a second?
Second.
Thanks. All in favor, give me a thumbs up emoji.
I'm abstaining from the last one.
Okay, John abstains. Anyone?
I abstain as well.
Shannon abstains. Any nays? Okay. I think we had enough. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ooh, we have enough. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Are you counting yourself?
More saying
Yeah,
yes than
one.
more saying yes than no is all you need. You don't need a quorum for a vote.
I don't need a quorum. All right, then we pass. Okay, good.
I think Claudio had his thumb up as well, if he just wants to
Oh, I
validate.
didn't see Claudia.
I don't know
Okay,
if you
Claudia.
missed.
Yes, it was
Yeah.
up.
Claudia, do you have video or no?
Mm-hmm.
All right, we can use it. That'd be good. If not, don't worry about it. Okay.
I'm here.
Public comments. Anything submitted officially, Shannon?
Sorry, I had to get off mute. No submissions through the inbox.
Okay. So we had a very happy New Year, first of all, everyone. Happy New Year. Welcome to 2025. It's going to be an amazing year. Big milestones this year. I'm very excited. I have a countdown on my phone for, I think I put it for August 1st, but whatever. New building. I cannot wait to walk through this building when it's all finished and polished and beautiful. Very excited. So some big things to look forward to this year. We have had a little bit of excitement over the past couple of days. So James, Mayor James Demetriadis posted a question on social media regarding the potential for an artificial turf field on our soccer field that we have to install because we basically built on top of the current soccer field. So anyone wondering why we're building a soccer field at the middle school, it's because the one that existed has a huge school sitting on it right now. A lot of conversations were happening, a lot of misinformation was happening again. It kind of propelled all this talk about what to do with the surplus funding and why aren't we spending it here and there. So I think the easiest thing to do, because I do kind of want to officially put to rest some of the misconceptions out there. I'm just going to read some of the posts I put on Facebook that I put out there mainly just to help people understand the actual situation. And then later on today, so Joe Colada and I had a conversation yesterday, Joe? Gosh, I can't. This morning? I don't know. We talked about
This morning.
this morning. Gosh, this week. It's felt like 3 months already. We had a conversation because, we are, I would say I'm very proud of the building committee. We are very open to anything and everything. We don't just say, we usually don't say no unless it's like, okay, let's think about this. And then I feel like it's usually we all agree to it together, right? It's not like, I don't feel there's a lot of contention. Let's put it that way. So there was a lot of conversation on social media, and there were some really good ideas that got brought up, and actually questions that I had as well. So Joe and I had a conversation yesterday about things like bookcases, which we'll talk about, and storage spaces for paras because they don't have their own classrooms, so where they're going to lock their stuff up during the days and things like that. So we'll talk about that during the design because Joe's got some ideas he's going to share, but I'm just going to read what I wrote just to put it in record so that if anyone is curious about what's going on, they can just look at our minutes and read it. So here we go. So there was a question posted at town council as to whether or not they wanted to consider upgrading the middle school soccer field from a rolled natural grass turf to artificial turf, as every other town around us has. We posed that question to the town council because of costs and because we understand that not everyone is in agreement that an artificial turf may be the right choice for the town. So that's why we went to the town council. It is unlike the solar panel discussion because we always had planned to put solar panels on the school. We just didn't know if we would have the budget to do so. So whereas the solar panels, we went forward with it. We didn't go back to town council asking for it. It was mainly because we had already agreement. It was already part of the plan. It was already discussed. We already said, okay, if we have money, if we have surplus, we're gonna go down that path. That is a different discussion than we have with the turf. Even though we do have surplus for the turf, the idea of an artificial turf field on the soccer field is not part of the original discussions. The field, regardless of what type of turf we put on it, whether it's the roll grass or the artificial turf, is still going to be a multi-sport field. And I believe we settled on soccer, lacrosse, anything else? Field hockey? I don't know. I don't think so, but it's soccer and lacrosse. The surplus funding can only be applied to the new middle school project. It can't be applied to any other area of town. So no, we're not going to go build sidewalks on the other side of town. We're not going to put it at Pearson Park. It cannot do that. We can only put it on the middle school property. It's part of this project. And I would say decisions that what we're going to do with that funding for the most part really need to be made by the end of this month to stay on track, because any other major changes we make is going to delay things. We're already kind of behind a little bit. So there's a timing issue. There was a lot of comments regarding the building committee's decisions on what was allowed and not allowed with the new building construction. So first of all the requests that were provided to us and in accordance with educational specification, which is the requirements for this project, as well as the budget for the projects. We were directed initially, all along, not initially, the whole time, that, be financially conscious, don't use all the money if you don't have to. So most of the decisions, we pretty much approved everything, almost everything. Like I don't recall many things that we pushed back on other than what we thought maybe were a little bit overpriced or, maybe not necessarily needed, but there's a collaborative discussion about it and we all came to the same conclusions. The list for the FFE was compiled and approved by the FFE subcommittee and then the building committee. We had a teacher on Blaze, you're on the FFE committee, Claudia, you're on the FFE committee, experts in this field, like exactly what needs to go in here. So it wasn't just the building committee who has no clue on what teachers need. We actually had people like in the trenches working every day with this stuff, making those decisions. And I think they did an amazing job surveying all the middle school teachers, the staff, administration, determine what needs were for everyone. It was a lot of effort. It took a lot of time. I think they did a great job with it. There was a lot of go back, a lot of discussions. Perkins provided drawings of the classroom types. The teachers were given the opportunity to determine what they actually needed. The classrooms were designed per the educational specifications. So that spec said, build a class for 24 students. We designed a class for 24 students. And There are some classes that are larger, like the science labs, music lab, obviously obvious ones, but those were also specified in the ed spec to be larger. I think there are only a few things we questioned with the original FFE package, but most of the things were approved. We acknowledge that the administration faculty had a much better understanding of their needs than anyone on the building committee. Like I said, they did a great job staying within their budget that they were allocated. We did make a point to mention that if they needed anything in addition that they felt they could not add to the package due to a budget constraint, that they would bring it to us for consideration. I don't think there were many requests. The desks, I think, was maybe one of the requests, but we, again, worked with them, approved that. And there were some things that we had brought up, you know, with the band room that like, hey, do you need this as well? And like risers, for example, we had a big discussion on risers, and then, you know, brought that to the teachers. They said they don't need it. Okay, move on. If the town decides they do not want the turf field, the surplus funds will just go back to town to lower the bond debt. Those funds don't go back to the state. There was some perception that the money goes back to the state. It doesn't. It stays within the town. And then last, please keep in mind that the prior town council directed us to maximize cost savings on this project and now use up all that it was allotted. I think the building committee has done a great job achieving the surplus we have now. So I really feel like we should be congratulated for having a surplus to begin with. It wasn't easy to do. It was a goal that they had set for us, and I feel like we did a good job achieving it. And that was it. That's all I wrote. So we're going to talk about, and Dr. Macker, I saw the email you sent out, you know, kind of doing a last call with the teachers, making sure that we didn't miss anything with the FF&E. And I'm completely open. Like, we obviously have the money that if there was something missed, like bookcases, like we can buy bookcases. That's not a big deal. The lockers for the paras, I didn't even thought of that. Like, someone had posted that. One of my friends who's a para, she posted that question about whether or not there's gonna be spaces for them. I don't know what the plan was, but we'll talk about that during the design as well. Okay. Thank you for hearing my speech there. Okay, moving on. And by the way, I don't have a date for the town meeting that's going to talk about the turf field. So I had requested that James postpone the discussion from tonight because we won't be there. So if any information comes up during town council today that is inaccurate, unfortunately, we won't be there to clear it up. So I will take a look at the video on YouTube. Hopefully I catch it in time after this meeting. And if I do hear anything that's false, I'll just send a note, maybe put something on social media just to clear it up. We had originally talked about doing if the town council wanted to, like we have to ask, my calendar doesn't work, the Tuesday before our next meeting. So today's the 21st, to have that town meeting to talk about the turf field so everyone can come out, have a discussion. The town council can then decide and vote before our next meeting. And that way, if they vote in favor, then we would incorporate. If they vote against, then business as usual. We don't have to do anything else. Again, it's in their hands. We're just here to provide facts. Okay. Communications, subcommittee report.
Rosanna, can I just interrupt quickly through the
Sure.
chair?
Yeah.
When do you want me to talk to you about? I'm just looking at the agenda to see where it would fit in, and I really don't know.
During Perkins, during the design discussion, we're going to talk about, because Joe's going to bring up a couple of things like the bookcases and lockers and stuff for paras. And if you have any other things that you feel the teachers need that we miss, bring it up at that point. We'll do it during the design discussion.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. Which is right after, so it's almost next couple agenda items. Shannon, do you have anything for communications?
No report. We're just gonna keep on going with our regular cadence of communications. So thank you, Rune.
Do we know when our next download video is going to be from the camera? Anyone that we could put on social?
I think the last one was just at the end of November, right, Blaze? So
Yeah,
probably
and I
a
don't
little
know,
bit of
I
time.
don't know. I don't know that there's also a whole lot to show because
Now it's just the
most of it's
building.
inside. I will check
Mhm.
with Steve and see if he's heard from the guy.
Okay. All right, perfect. Okay, all right. And nothing else, Shannon? All right, Heather, do you have anything for design?
Nothing for design.
Okay, then let's go right to Joe Colada.
Joe, I've made you a co-host so you can share screen if you need to.
Thank you, Jack. And I think I want screen 2. Everybody can see my screen?
Not yet.
New? Oops,
Not yet.
maybe it didn't share. Let's try that again. Ah, one more click. There we go. Okay, now everybody should be able to see my screen.
Yep.
All right, this is our presentation for January 8th meeting. And there we go. So we have our typical, what we've been seeing over the last few meetings, or field report, FF&E tech update, FF&E procurement update, and then the PV system update. So field visits. So Alex will be visiting the site on Friday of this week. Mostly this is to review the auditorium seating mock-up that's on the site right now. Consultants continue to visit, and we are moving through submittals, RFIs, and PCOs as we receive them in priority order. And I do have some pictures this time from Alex's last visit right before the holidays. So we could see the exterior brick and windows being installed at building B. The shots from the roof looking back towards building A. Here's a shot of the cafeteria that we've seen in the drone shots. The gymnasium is moving along. And this is an interesting shot of, I guess it's from the stage looking through the wall that's not sheathed yet, looking out through Main Street. So this is a unique view that will be gone in a couple months, I would think. And then the building's main entry. FF&E tech update. So where we are right now is bids have been awarded that have been received and leveled. State contractor quotes have been received and those have been awarded. The direct purchase items were pending award of those. A lot of the vendors have indicated that they would like to be awarded at a later date to be more in line of when they would be delivering. Because once you, with the direct purchase items, my understanding is once you order it, they're going to deliver it. And right now there's no place to deliver them to. So those awards are being pushed off a little bit. And then bid 2 has been issued. I believe it's out on the street as of yesterday. And we have a schedule for that that we'll go over. Sole source for
Hey, Joe?
technology. Yes.
Just real quick, the direct purchase stuff, if we're gonna hold on giving them the purchase orders, they're gonna keep the same pricing, is that correct?
Not necessarily, because some of the stuff is being purchased through Amazon, so the price might vary a little bit.
Oh, okay.
So, but right
right.
now, for some of the items, there's nowhere to store it. It would have to be stored in the existing school, and
Okay.
who's responsible for it? So we're gonna have to delay that purchase to get the delivery on when the building is available to place the items.
Okay. Can you just remind me real quick, what was the rough ballpark value of the direct purchase items?
It's around 18,000.
18,000. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for the furniture procurement right now? Okay, so sole source letters for technology are still in review with OGA. We're waiting for we resubmitted the sole source letter for the integrator. We have not heard back from that. That's for the TE02. for the WAP, wireless access points. And then we're still waiting for the review of the server and firewall sole source letter, which we issued a revised spec for that. And once those two things are approved, then we'll be able to get our approval letter from OGA for the package to begin the procurement process for that.
And for the benefit of the committee, Emily has been keeping after the reviewer, prompting that we're waiting for these letters so that we can get our approval and go out to bid on that. And despite her prompting, we have not received a return message. But we gave after it.
Our schedule getting a little bit more complicated and truncated here. So, oh, I forgot to move this line here. We're actually right here. So we had the building committee approval of the furniture bids for the first package. Then we had some items that had to be rebid. So those bids we're looking to get approval on 2/5. And I've taken this off because it's to be determined for the approval of tech bids, and we'll have to develop a schedule for that once we get OGA approval. We're still looking right now to deliver, install FF&E starting in May and working through August.
So Joe, I assume you put that off to the side because we're still waiting.
Correct.
What's the critical decision point before we start affecting getting into the school?
I'll have to reach out to D'Agostino to see if they have an opinion on where we would be based on the current date relative to delivering the technology in May. That is the critical path for occupying the admin suite and the Board of Ed per Newfield's schedule. So I don't know if we're at a point where we should start to be worried or not yet. I think most of the items, when I last spoke to Mark about it, he wasn't concerned yet, but I haven't talked to him since the new year switched over here.
Okay, and most of the items, are they typically off the shelf available?
I'd have to have Mark
Okay.
answer that.
Okay.
I don't know
All
that.
right. That's fine. Yeah, thanks. Okay,
Just
I'm good.
taking, okay, just taking a note so I don't lose it.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. All right, so this big long list of numbers, I'll go through this. So these are the bid items that we looked at. There's been some adjustment to some of these numbers for clerical and formula adjustments. There was some difficulty reading one of the forms that was handwritten, so we had to make some adjustments once we got a clarification on that. So for the bid value, we had 466. We were under that value for our bids. We were under the value for the quotes from the state contract. The quotes for the direct purchase, we ended up being a little bit higher, but overall total estimate value of what's been procured to date, we're under budget for the items that have been procured to date. Now, this does not include the direct purchase items. I brought this number down below the line here. Oops. So then for our estimated value of the rebid items, which is the seating, the piano and bench, which we didn't receive a bid on, and the bike and wall decal, which will be a direct purchase now. That value is 67,000 plus the direct purchase, which is not included here, plus the value procured to date, gives us a total estimated, once everything is procured, of just shy of $890,000. So this value versus our original estimate, we're under by 225,000. And then over the overall budget, we have a savings of 310,000 once everything is procured, estimated. Any questions on that? If I need to go over anything again. So with that being said, with the discussions that I've had with Rosanna over the last couple of days, we took a look at classroom bookcases. So these would be for the ELA classrooms and the world language classrooms, which have a decent amount of books that's been reported to us for each of those programs. So we are able to easily fit 12 30-inch high bookcases along the back wall and window wall. We're keeping them at 30 inches high so that they're below the window sills and below the whiteboards on the back wall here. So that would give you approximately about 1,000 paperback books storage in those bookshelves. Also wanted to point.
Joe, that isn't what we want. I'm sorry. I don't want
Oh.
to, I'm sorry. I'm just going to chime in.
Okay.
I was there all day today pretty much and measuring with Claudio. So if we were to put those bookshelves across the back of the room,
Mm-hmm.
it really just gets in the way of that board in the back where our
Yes.
students are interactively working. So my thoughts and Claudio's thoughts are that we would have 3 feet by 3 feet bookcases by not the other wall, the one that has nothing on it, by the windows, under the windows only.
So
And
I don't want to interrupt, but the windows, the max we could do is 30 inches high to get below the windows.
We don't need to
So
be below the windows.
below
You
the
don't-
windows.
We
You
don't
don't
need
want-
to be below the windows. We'd be about 2 to 3 inches above the bottom edge of the window.
Okay.
That's not a
That-
problem.
But then
we
how does
can't-
that impact the escape windows?
Right, if you
It
have to
does,
go
we're
out
talking
them.
about 2, 3 inches of the bottom of the window.
Yeah,
The windows are like 6 feet high.
the windows are humongous and the room satisfied. If we went 6 inches above, it would still be fine. But we're not asking to go that high, 3 feet by 3 feet. So we need 6 of those across underneath
Okay.
the windows. That would be plenty of storage and it would, we need room for students to move around and to have small group instruction and have station
Okay.
rotation. So that makes way more sense and no one has 1,000 books to store. So
Okay.
this should be completely fine. So that's our thought and everybody, after emailing with the staff today per directive of the Board of Education, they now all want bookcases in their classrooms. So that would be about 45 classrooms, 270 bookcases. And that's, I could stop there with bookcases until we move on to the small reading station tables and chairs that would go along with them. So that would be a better use of space and we would be putting them in all classrooms, not just in ELA. And it would be,
Okay.
like you said, under the windows.
So why would we have a brand new building where we can design these right, but we're being directed to install them higher than the windowsill?
We don't have to go higher. Staying right below the windowsill
Yeah,
to me, is plenty of space. If we go above the windowsill, have you gone in there, Ken, lately to see the windows, the way it's pretty interesting because they're so huge.
yeah.
If you went 2 inches, which I think is what Claudio is saying, right?
Yes.
The windows are
By
in
the
there.
time you get to the finished edge of the window, we're only about 2 to 3 inches above the bottom edge.
And
At 30
it'll,
inch, you're below the trim or just below the trim.
Is that
And even if
true,
we're-
Joe? You'll be right below the trim?
With the 36-inch high bookshelves,
No, with the
Mhm.
30 inch, you'll be
with the
below
30-inch would be
the
right below.
36.
We'd
Yeah,
be
but you're
right
asking
below
for
it.
you're asking for 36-inch, which would be 6
Mhm.
inches above the windowsill.
that's after the
You're just gonna,
molding.
it's just gonna look funny, that's all.
Yeah, I get it, but I mean, we're designing this brand new. Let's just think about, you know, if a 30-inch high one works better, and doesn't block the sill of the window. I mean, I get that the windows are 6 feet high and all, but let's just do it right.
Then just do it at 30 inches because going around the back, the back and adding that space, will really interfere with the way we teach now. The reason why we have that board in the back is for it to be interactive with kids. So if there's bookshelves there, they're going to be reaching over it, which there'll be less of a reason to use that black, that whiteboard, that space. So if you just did 6 going across the bottom underneath the windows, that will be plenty.
Okay.
And then if there's anybody who has more than that books, which I know they don't, but if they did, I do believe that the cabinetry is more than enough, and otherwise we will, we are processing a little bit about, what we can do as far as using some space, in the STEAM room as a book room, which is usually what schools have, but we can't have a book room because we have so many extra we have so many resources going into student services now that we just couldn't have a book room. We need it for OT, ET, we have ESS in there now. So there is really nowhere to have a book room, but usually a school would have a book room. There's plenty of space under there.
Can
We're
I chime
good.
in? Can I chime in for a second? How deep are these shelves? How deep are they, Joe? Are they what, like
They're-
12 inches?
They're 12, I believe they're 12 and a half inches.
Yeah. So my concern, to Shannon's point, is if we put a bookshelf in front of that one operating window that we put in specifically just for egress, in a bad situation, are they going to be able to climb over that bookshelf and get out? That's the only concern I
it's-
have.
John,
Yes,
if it's below
for middle
below it,
schoolers.
there,
It's a
yeah.
30-inch bookcase for middle schoolers who are almost our size.
Okay,
It's
so
not
we're,
gonna feed anyone.
so
They're
we're
gonna have to
deciding
be-
on a 30-inch tall bookcase, which is gonna go right below the sill of the window, six bookshelves across.
For a classroom.
They're going to have to be
For
affixed
classroom.
to the wall. They're going to have to
I'm
be
sorry,
affixed to the wall too then.
Yeah. they
Sorry
should
to
be
interrupt
different.
everyone. Sorry, it's Mark McCarthy. I've met you guys maybe once or twice. I'm with Joe. Is it that you're looking for 3 shelves high, or are you just looking for the highest you can get and still be sort of aligned with the window?
It
Yeah.
I'm
sounds
just
like,
asking.
what everybody wants.
Yeah, no, I'm just because, when we actually get into the furniture, there's always a little bit of a base on the furniture. Probably we can find something that has maybe some adjustable shelves in case there's some oversized books and things like that. So there's a little bit of, a little bit of specking out of the furniture that we can show you a couple of choices on that. And I think Joe will probably have to double check on I know the kids can climb over it in a sort of in real world sort of pragmatic way, but whether we're messing with anything in terms of code, if there's our escape windows and stuff, but we'll verify all that.
Thank you. That was gonna be my question, how it related to code, if there was egress required.
Mm-hmm.
Typically an escape window has to have a sill no higher than 44 inches. So in either
Right.
case, you're not violating that.
But
And
is
I
do have
there,
I
but
do have a
can you,
clear,
can you have anything sitting in front of it? I know like
Obstruction.
electrical, there's code, you can't have 36 inches in front of an electrical box or something like that. Is this
Yeah.
similar? And it's not, fine, we can, put them there.
I don't believe there's any impediment here, and this essentially would
Okay.
act as an extended window sill.
Okay.
You could, kneel on top of the bookcase and then kneel on the windowsill and then hop out the window.
Okay.
It actually might help someone who's trying to get out
Yeah.
rather than hinder them.
They should be
Yeah,
affixed
and
to the walls to them.
under the current code, the windows are not a required means of egress.
Okay.
If I can ask a clarifying question, Enza, I thought I heard you say instead of 6 classrooms, we're now talking about every classroom?
Yes.
Yes.
Just want to put the flag of caution on the field that since we have already gone through our plan review on FF&E, any additions to FF&E are ineligible for state funding.
Yeah.
So we're gonna pay the full freight out of the town's pocket.
Okay. I mean, when there's
If
a
you
lot
need-
of people involved, this is what happens, and there was some miscommunication. So at this point, this is what the teachers want. And
If you, if you need it, you need it. I just want to, make sure that you're all making an informed decision.
yeah, that's up to
So-
the building committee. If you know, whatever you guys want to do, that is what they want. And that came across, at a faculty meeting the other day. And then today, Blaze and I asked for direct feedback from teachers to me. And some of them specifically wrote to me that they would like that, and Blaze did as well. And
So-
I believe, Blaze, you got the same response, correct?
That's correct. They originally it was going to be just language arts, but everybody else said they would like it as well for the option of, if they need it, basically, because they can't get it later. Particularly the smaller offices, the intervention offices, the special ed offices, they have a lot of paperwork, a lot of stuff, so they definitely wanted it. We could check with science. I'm not sure that science wants it in those science rooms. So, but otherwise everybody does want it.
Yeah, science has a lot of built-in millwork
Right.
already.
And I'm not sure they have, they're not going to have 1,000 books.
And then
they have their prep room to store a lot of the stuff as well.
And I heard you say, Blaze, paperwork. So are some of these looking for file cabinets versus
No,
bookcases?
it's more like binders and things.
Okay,
That
thank
kind
you.
of stuff.
So just
Hey,
a
Jack.
rough estimate, and it's looking at about $75,000 if we took the rate for these 72 bookcases, extrapolate out to 270 bookcases, about $75,000.
That's about what I just came up with too, Rosanna.
Hey, Jack, if instead of going with purchased bookshelves, if we went with millwork as a change order, would that be reimbursable?
I believe it would as a change order to a contractor, but you're
And
kind
not
of
Be a lot more expensive.
probably pay 3 times as much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but one, you got a budget surplus. 2, you could design it exactly the way you want it rather than having 3 or 4 inches over the windows, which I think would look rather
Well,
tacky.
no, the
for-
30 inches, the
Wait.
30 inches would be right below it. So the 30-inch bookcases would not go over the windowsill.
We've agreed that 30 inches would be acceptable and it would keep underneath the windowsill. So that would be fine. So we don't have that problem anymore. And there's also time constraints. If you're building it rather than purchasing it, it'll also may impact the schedule of the project.
Well, just a thought.
Yeah, I mean, I
Okay.
had the same thought, Ken, 'cause I was thinking, well, if we're gonna put something, near the windows, if it's like a little bench seated with, like you see with shelves underneath it, so kids can sit there and read or whatever, but
Yeah, I wouldn't want it to look like an afterthought.
yeah, I think the millwork at this rate, it'd be a change order, but I think Jack's point it'd be so much more expensive, even with the reimbursement.
Hey, Joe, I have a question. If we put these bookshelves along that wall, is that gonna result in reconfiguration for like electrical and data? Like, are there services on these walls that we're gonna be blocking?
I'd have to check that.
That's important.
I would say probably along
There's-
this wall
there's
there
gotta
would
be
have
at least
been, yeah.
power, right? Because you're gonna have to have power every, 6 or 9 feet.
Yeah, I have to
Yep.
check to see if the exterior wall has power.
The
Yeah,
exterior
Every
walls
wall.
are, the exterior walls are 21 feet long. If you're using a 36-inch bookcase, there is space that if you had to and there was a plug, you can leave a gap to run a plug. If you needed to use a plug over there, the location of a plug on the exterior window with bookcases in front of it is going to be rare to begin with. But if necessary, you can leave a gap between the bookcases to reach any plugs.
Yeah,
So what
my
I know-
only point is that if we're looking at $75,000 in FF&E, there could be could be a significant change order if we have to move outlets up.
So, what I just wanted to say, and I'm not sure at all, but what I noticed today, that space, that what we're talking about as far as getting 6 30-inch bookcases, that doesn't take up that entire wall. And I don't know much about where the plug would have to go, but there's still room on that wall for a plug to go in one a decent spot. There's still enough room. That's not, so basically the bookcases are not completely all along that entire room. They just stop at the windows, and then there's a decent amount of space
20
off to the right or the left of those windows where you can actually have a plug. And that's where I think one should go. But what do I know?
We
I'm
don't
just saying.
expect there to be a, yeah, we don't expect there to be a change order to relocate those plugs because the 6 bookcases on one of those walls is 3 feet less than the length of the wall. So there's plenty of space.
That's what,
At best,
Yeah,
there
but,
might be 2
but,
plugs on that
like,
wall.
But rough-in is probably already done,
Right.
and they're
Yes.
sheetrocking interior walls, so.
Yeah,
We
we
just
can't
remain
move
there,
plugs
it's
at
gonna-
this point. There's
That's
no
you know,
moving
we're-
plugs
Just
at this
remain
point.
there.
Yeah,
You
you
have-
could probably just move them up at that point. Moving them to another location might be more trouble than it's worth.
Yeah, we are not
Something
moving
there.
plugs at this point because everything's been like pretty much hardwired, like not hardwired, but roughed, and
Yeah.
sheetrock is going up in most of the classrooms. But we can, you could just slide the bookcases, I'm guessing, left to right to avoid that gap, right?
as long as they're not, but John just talked about making sure that they're, John.
Secure to the wall.
They should be
Secure.
attached
Secure to the wall,
Safety.
anchored
Yeah.
to the wall.
Yeah, I'm
Yes,
guessing these
this-
bookshelves are gonna go in after the fact, so the plugs are gonna be in the wall. You're gonna know exactly where the outlet is. Just
Where to
Well,
secure
drill it.
them.
Let's,
Yeah, secure it.
I want to reiterate what I said before. There's a brand new building, let's do it right. And if we need to move a plug up above a bookcase, let's do it.
I think so too, Ken, because sometimes where those plugs lay out, you might have a big gap between 2 shelves, then a small gap between the next 2 shelves, and it might look funny depending on how those plugs are laid out.
Unless that
Yeah.
plug is currently under a window, where you're gonna put it?
You can move it
I don't
left, or right, but
I mean, Joe, you have the electrical layout, right? Somewhere you could probably,
I do, I just can't access right now.
yeah.
Well, you get my point, though.
I took a look while you guys were all discussing. If you're looking at that word language 1, right about on the left-hand side, you're about halfway between that return in the wall there and the window itself with the plug. And then the same thing, second verse on the other side. And that's typical of every classroom. So there is no plug under the window. There is no plug
Right.
between the window.
All right, so you just
Oh,
put the
great.
bookshelves in between them then.
So it sounds like we're good.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you, Chris, for looking into that. Okay.
And I'm sorry, was 6 just determined based on what's shelf space exists today or what might hypothetically be needed in each classroom?
Oh, I'm sorry, Matt, were you talking to me? I'm sorry.
Or,
did you say?
yeah, your Claudia, I'm saying was the number in each classroom of 6, just based on what's in the existing classrooms today, or what might potentially
No.
be used in the future, looking at the space and trying to kind of maximize what's possible
Trying to maximize the space underneath the windows
on that wall. Yeah. Okay.
on that wall, yeah. Without going further into the wall where there are no windows, so that space can be utilized in a different
Yeah,
way.
you got the blackboard and interactive learning wall, definitely. Yeah, okay. I mean,
That was one thing, and the other thing, the half moon tables, some teachers have them in the building, some don't. Obviously, we want to get new furniture because of the rooms being a little tighter. Everybody wants, first we were talking about just core classes and special education and intervention rooms needing these tables where the teacher sits. It's a half moon, so the teacher sits and then 4 students sit around the teacher for small group instruction. So that's another oversight. And so we would need one of those for every classroom, which we said is about 45 classrooms, and then 5 extra chairs. So that's
220.
230, 220
225.
chairs. Yeah.
225 chairs or 230 chairs, somewhere along that line.
230. Yeah. 45 times, 5. So
225.
whatever that equals. So those are two things that are being requested from the
Instead of
teachers.
the teachers' desks?
No, both. Their
Right.
desk is,
Where were they
They
put them though?
we went in there today and there's quite a few different ways that if you leave the desks the way they are, which they shouldn't be. Some teachers still like rows, but that isn't best practice. They're to be connected so you can have small groups so that the students talk. You have more room. But the way we looked at it today, if you put your desk the way it's supposed to be, you could put the reading table in front. But most likely what will most likely happen is a lot of teachers are going to have these desks combined in fours. That's how they sit quite often. And then they could decide where they want to put their reading table, their small group instruction table. They could decide if they want to put it in the front of the room. They could decide if they want to move their desk somewhere else and rearrange it. They can get creative, but there is enough space to be creative and do this. But they can't have the big kidney shaped tables. They have to have the smaller ones with just 4 seats and one for the teacher.
So you would need that also in like the science classrooms?
No, you don't need those in science. We said 45 classrooms. I don't know. We were counting quickly. I don't know. Blaze, did you talk to science?
I spoke to to a couple of the science people, and they think it would be, wouldn't have a use for it. It would clutter up their room because they have the bigger lab tables that have less maneuverability.
So we would have to just count those up. Yeah. So we would have to count those up to get a good number.
Can I ask a dumb question here? I thought we put the movable desks in here so that we could, like, if we needed to group students together, or if it's reading for whatever reason, that would be the flexibility to do that.
Right.
Is
if
this
I
a
can-
totally different purpose? Yeah.
If I can answer that, then you have people switching seats all the time.
Well, you'll spend
So
more
what-
time.
So when the kids are working at their desk, the teacher pulls 4 students. You
Okay.
can't move or have everybody move around. So that's the thought behind that. Why
Okay.
it really
Okay.
doesn't work
So
the other way.
if teachers like this setup, the rows, I don't see where you're gonna fit a
Well,
desk and 4 chairs.
most of the teachers don't have this set up. And the way our curriculum is written, you really shouldn't have this set up because you're just wasting time moving kids and pushing desks around when you're doing small groups, which is what a lot of the learning that we do is right now.
And I have to say, I don't really know anybody who keeps them this way all the time. They might put them that way for a test or something, but the flexibility is what we like. So I at this point, I don't know of anybody who still does it this way.
It doesn't fit our modality of instruction.
So then should we have these desks or should we have tables?
No, at this point, we should always have desks because you're always going to have a situation where you may need to move a desk apart for a student who may be getting extra support for push-in services. You know what I mean? So having desks where you can pull one from one section if a student needs to work with someone that's getting services provided within the classroom. Tables in the classrooms are not, they need somewhere to put their stuff. They need the baskets underneath to put their books, their bags. In an elementary school, I would say probably yes, but in a middle school, I don't know, Blaze, you could.
And I want the flexibility. Sometimes I put them in groups of 2. Sometimes I put them in groups of 3. Sometimes 4. Sometimes I make a big circle. I want that flexibility, which tables wouldn't give me.
Yeah.
But we're saying that the layout isn't what the teachers are going to use, but we have the desks, the desks that we selected allow the teachers the flexibility to put them in the configuration that works right?
Yes.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay, so we're not talking about changes to the desks.
No.
We're
They-
only looking at the drawing right now that says that just happens that the drawing isn't the way it's going to look in practice.
So maybe what we need to see, Joe, is the layout in the quad format that they expect to actually have the class set up in, and to see what space we actually have. Because I mean, I appreciate that you went and did measurements, but until you actually lay it all out and have the necessary space around each desk that is required, I'm just having a hard time seeing, like, volume is volume, right? No matter how you configure, volume is volume, and there's not a lot of volume left.
So
If you don't have, if we don't have these tables, then we are not going to have scientifically research-based instructional strategies being provided to students. So we have to have these tables, and the teachers will make it work because they always do. They know that there's nothing we could do about the size of the rooms. We've talked about that till we were blue in the face. And
I have a problem with that,
There's
though.
also
if
code requirements. I remember them
if I
walking
could-
us through. So certainly we'd have to consider that.
I mean,
If I can jump in for a second, I went over, when we went over just before the break, I paced off roughly the size of the new room versus the size of the room I have now, and they are very, very similar. And in my room, I can put 24 desks, and these are the desks that are attached, so they're actually bigger than these, and I have a table in there.
there's
So it is
plenty of room.
they're certainly doable. It should not feel cramped.
No, there's
It
plenty of room.
definitely looks like there's room.
There's plenty of room to do this. This is what we need. And otherwise, you are going to have some very angry teachers, and they are not going to be able to provide the instruction of which we are set up to provide. It could be done. It will be done. So
So Dr. Becker, does this new to us set of requirements, is it a complete list now? Like, are we pencils down after we have,
we sure hope
after we
so.
go through?
I sure hope so, Jessica. I'd like to tell you yes. And I'd like to not look in the rearview mirror and move forward because I don't think it'll do any of us any good.
Right.
So that's exactly what I'm doing right now. I emailed all the teachers specifically and asked them to get back to me directly today with what they saw that they were going to have in their room and what they were not happy about. So at this point, if they didn't get back to me by 2:30 today, I don't, there's not much more I can do.
I also said, what else, or did we miss anything else? Speak now or forever hold your peace. And nobody could come up with anything else that falls within our scope.
Right. There will be things that we need to purchase, but that's later and it's instructional and that's on us. But in this situation, these two, I don't even want to call them oversights because there's a few different ways of thinking about this. But at this point, this is it.
There's 45 classrooms that would need this, Enza?
Well, that was my estimate, but we have to go back and minus the science rooms. So Anne has the big plan in her office that she's been working on. She's actually the one who gave us the walkthrough today because she knows where every classroom is and what every teacher has, because she knows the building so well already. So she's going to have to go back and count all of them with Claudio to double check. But this is as far as we got because I was
There are probably a few of the other smaller rooms that don't need it either. The OT room, the sensory room, things like that would not need the table. I don't believe.
Yeah, we'll double check with everybody and we'll ask everyone. The special education rooms definitely, intervention, absolutely. That's the whole purpose. So
We'll double check and confirm the count, just to
Yeah,
avoid any over purchase.
yeah.
All right.
Okay. So
This
at
is
this
happening
point,
fast today, so the exact count hasn't been determined, but this is a general scope of what we're facing and what we're requesting today.
So if we looked at high side cost estimates, let's just say $800 a desk. It's gonna be less than that, let's just say it is, and then $100 a chair, looking at about $55,000 extra, assuming it's for every classroom. For hearing it's not, so. Just plus the 75,000 for the bookshelves.
And there goes our
And
turf
then-
field.
And there goes our,
There goes our
FF&E
$4 million
savings.
surplus.
okay.
Another question too, in terms of cost, would there also be a cost to the rework of the design, the furniture design layout? That goes to Perkins.
Yeah, I'm gonna need to review this with Mark. He unfortunately had to drop off the call, but likely there will be some additional services to,
For what?
for what we 100% complete with furniture design layout and through procurement at this point. We've had approved layouts for 3 months, multiple meetings throughout the summer.
If we just, so is this about the bookshelves that are movable and the table that are movable? My understanding is if it's not glued to the wall, or I don't know what I guess I don't know what the extra cost would be.
It's the procurement process. They're gonna have to go put new bids out and everything.
Yeah, selecting the items if it's not already in the project, we need doing layouts, anything like that to confirm accessibility, because we still need to maintain that. I don't know if Jack wants to weigh in on what the state's involvement. I know the costs are not reimbursable, but do we have to present revised layouts to the state?
Yeah,
I'm
if they're
not sure on
if-
that.
as long as a layout confirms that we can still provide appropriate egress in the rooms, that the room will actually function with this extra material in it. Doing it, a sample like the 1 or 2 classrooms that we're looking at right now, just as a proof of concept would be just something for the owner's purposes to say, yep, it'll still work. The state's not going to pay for it, so they're kind of out of their mission in life is to review what we're doing to make sure that they're spending the state's money appropriately. If they're not going to pay for it, they really don't have jurisdiction, as long as we know we're not overtly violating some code or the functional aspects of the space.
Right, so we don't need to meet with the state again on this.
I would not bother meeting with the state over a small change like this.
So
Okay.
was any of this in the ed spec, or was that an oversight in the ed spec? I'm just trying to understand.
That was my question as well, Ken. I'm wondering, would Enza use the word things that were missed? I'm just wondering if it was something that was absent from the ed spec, and now suddenly people are saying, hey, they never talked about it, but I need it.
Yeah, it's just weird because I'm getting the impression this is like critical for the effective teaching. And if it's critical,
I will say when the ed specs were done, what was that, 5 years ago? The way we taught was different. This has been an initiative over the past few years of having this small group instruction that did not exist 5 years ago when the ed specs were drawn up. So that's part of it, I would say.
Okay.
I guess my other question is,
Just like with the library media center was completely changed.
Yeah.
Because 5 years ago that was a whole different concept.
so we need to add this change to the ed spec, Jack, or does it not matter?
no, because the state's not going to pay for it. So there's no reason. When we changed the auditorium, that was so that we could make it reimbursable. And we did the ed spec change for that. Here, we know after the fact, we're not going to go through another FF&E plan review. So we're not going to change the ed spec to pick this up. But my other question was, when we were having these design meetings with school staff last spring and summer, how was it that this need didn't get expressed at that time?
My understanding, what I'm being told by the teachers is that it was, and it never appeared. I wasn't on all of those meetings. That's why I said I would like to move forward and not look in the rearview mirror and point fingers at anyone. So I'm going to say that I refuse to answer that question because I wasn't in those meetings. And at this point, the school is absolutely gorgeous. Everyone is working incredibly hard, and I don't want to point fingers at anybody. I would just like to say, let's move forward and make this happen since we're in a good position. And leave it at that.
I think that's fine. The only reason I ask is if we have somebody who's asking for an additional service and these things were in the ed spec but not included in furniture plans, then, you know, you tell them to go pound sand.
Yeah.
But if it was an oversight, and let's face it, everybody makes an oversight, has oversights and makes mistakes, and that's the way things go. I don't want to point fingers at anybody either. I just want to understand, because there's a cost involved both for design that we're going to have to account for some way. And it would just be good to understand that better. That's all.
I believe that it was an oversight because when teachers were looking at these classrooms with what was in it and finally looking at pictures, they weren't thinking this is exactly everything that's going to be in my room. This is a sketch of a classroom, what a typical classroom looks like. This doesn't mean everything that I'm going to have and need is in here. That's what I believe has happened. And as
Yeah,
time moves
people
forward-
get excited just to see something new, and they don't it's hard for a lot of people to understand drawings
Right.
like this.
Yeah.
I totally understand that. And sometimes if the right question isn't probed and asked, you know, there could be oversights like this.
I
mean,
would,
to be honest too, there's going to be things that you're going to ask for after the building opens, and it always happens on every project. So it's good to think about this now, but there's going to be other things that come up.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I said the same thing. I said, this is now, but this is all we're going to come through this project. Then after, we're just going to have to suck it up and figure out how we're going to, you know, pay for the things that we may have missed, because it's just so huge. And so many different people are taking care of so many different pieces. And when you're looking at this, you can almost think to yourself, that teacher's test, you can almost think to yourself, was the working station. No one's thinking, oh, where's my desk? So a lot of different stories. Frankly, I don't want to take up your entire night about them. It just happened. And
Yeah, that's fine.
yeah.
can I also say, I think it will be significantly less than 45 classrooms. I just ran it through in my head. You don't need music, you don't need band, you don't need coding, you don't need robotics, you don't need the media center, you don't need art. They all have already their own equipment. So I think we're looking at more like the low 30s as far as though that goes. So that's less money.
All right, so
Well,
we would just need, like, just give us an accurate number as to exactly how many you need, and
Yeah.
for the bookcases as well. If not every classroom needs all those bookcases.
We'll confirm the numbers as we go through each classroom individually, and get those numbers back to you.
And then
So
before we leave,
can I ask a question? I mean, I would like the classrooms to be as uniform as possible, but that, because we could change, right? One day you can have, in 2 years from now, we may have a subject that we never even thought of. That's the world we live in. But there have been some teachers who said, oh, listen, I only want half the wall of book. That would be okay if the cost is too high. My reaction to that is we should make everything look as similar as possible, because you never know who's going to be in there teaching what. And with the exception of science, art, because they have so many big spaces. So if you're a core classroom, and you're a science classroom, you may say, well, I don't have as many, and I'm sorry, social studies, I may not have as many books as an English language arts teacher. So instead of having the entire area filled with bookshelves, it's only filled half. To me, I feel like that we're not thinking flexibly for the future, because that may not always be that person's classroom. So is that something that everyone agrees on? Like, keep it consistent, and I'm thinking long term and not just short term. Because some teachers did say, well, I only need half the room, of a bookshelves. And to me, I don't know if that teacher's always going to be in that room. It depends on depends on what we're doing. Are you in agreement with that?
I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
I'm
I
fine.
think that's good.
Yes.
All I was gonna say is, and maybe Joe will do this. I know we were just trying to do the rough math about can we fit 6 and does it block the wall outlets? I guess, Joe can do the due diligence, but if for some reason 6 would block the outlets and it has to be 5, because we have to anchor them in, I think that might, maybe
Yeah,
Joe, you have to let us know, because I don't.
let's find out.
I'd
how
like to
many
get
actually-
6. I would like to get 6, but if they block both outlets,
Right.
I don't want to say, because I don't know if the cleaning staff has to go in there or a teacher wants to put in a humidifier. I don't know. Like if they can't get to it and then they try to move it and they say, oh, shoot, this thing's anchored to the wall. Why would someone do that? Well, let's understand, like, we're anchored to the wall because if they're near the windows, we want them to be not flex movable. for that.
Yeah, let's find out how many bookshelves actually fit between the 2 wall sockets.
And I'm good. I mean, I can picture, I don't know, Blaze, you're the math teacher. I could just imagine going into these rooms and seeing like half empty bookshelves or maybe more, like one bookshelf being used maybe early on before the teachers accumulate stuff. So it might look a little goofy. Now, closed cabinets, the cabinets might be empty, but you might say, well, no one sees it because it's a nice finished look. But maybe for a while it might look a little empty.
Well,
But
I'm going to tell you, there are
I don't
other
know.
things. As a math teacher, I have boxes of manipulatives that I store on shelves. I mean, it's not just books. So
Yeah.
there could be other things on there as well.
They're deep enough. You could put like baskets of stuff in there too.
Right. And the tops of them can be used, for you're turning your work here, or the
Yeah.
no name bin.
Can I interrupt for a quick question? This is Selena. Hi, everyone. I just wanted to ask about anchoring. They're only 30 inches high. I'm just wondering why it's necessary to anchor them. It's not like they're going to tip over, and it might be easier to be able to utilize them in different ways if they decide they need to, or if, like you said, there's an
They wanted
outlet.
to move them somewhere else or something.
My
Yeah,
point
just
about
curious
anchoring
why.
that was that if you had to, at least the one in front of the window that is egress, because if you needed to climb over that in an emergency, you don't want to try to climb over it and it fall down. My point was more just towards the one that is near that operating window or under that operating window. You don't want that to move if you have to climb over that in a hurry.
I think as long as they're not on wheels, John, I think the risk of
Yeah.
that is minimal. So
There's only 30 inches high.
I'm not sure anchoring is really necessary, but that's
You're also going to have your 1,000 copies of, where the red fern grows in there too. So that's going to add additional weight.
I've seen desks tip over when somebody, tries to reach across or climb over it or whatever.
If we're
Or not-
climbing out of a window, then I think that's probably the least of our problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Jack, do we need to vote on this or?
not at this time. There's nothing concrete enough to vote on. I think, you've heard the concern, you've heard the request. You seem to be in consensus to determine the right quantities and provide something actionable to you at a future meeting. So number of bookcases, bottom line cost, number of desks and chairs, bottom line, or tables and chairs, bottom line cost, and then we can have a motion at that time.
Okay,
And Rosanna, we'll need a little bit more information on exactly what's being requested, type of chairs. Make sure we get the right desk when we get to that.
yeah, work with Claudio and Blaze.
Okay.
Subcommittee.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Enzo, is there any other items that the teachers felt were missing?
No, that's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
And thank you
Yeah.
for everything you guys are doing, and sorry to come to you at the last minute, but I like Ken said, I don't think this will be the last time that I hear it, but it's the last time we're gonna come to you about it.
Okay. All right.
I won't quote you on that.
No, Ken, and you can ask, I'll say, Ken, guess what I found out today?
Yeah, exactly.
Guess what I'm buying today, Ken?
All right, Joe, let's go on to the next slide.
All right, next slide. Am I muted? No. Next slide, if it will go. So I also heard from Rosanna that there was a requirement or a request for storage for the paraprofessionals, as they don't have a dedicated space to themselves. So we looked at 3 quick options of where we could place lockers for them to store coats and bags and whatever else they might need to store while they are teaching. So option 1 would be in the print rooms. So there's one of these in each of the classroom wings. So we could provide 3 2-tiered lockers per print rooms. That would give you 6. So a total of 18 locker spaces. In each of the classroom wings, option 2, there is a corridor. This is a snap of the one going in wing B on the first floor that would go out to the fields. There's a similar one in wing A that goes out to the courtyard. And on the second floor, there's a similar shorter wing adjacent to the elevator that we could place 3 in each of those corridors as an option 2. And then option 3, looking at it with Mark earlier, would be to place them all in one area. So you would have 8 2-tiered lockers, give you a total of 16 spaces for the 15 paraprofessionals. And they would all be located in one spot, proposed in wing B on the first floor. So
Where is
As
that?
a
So
para,
the-
can I'm sorry.
I was just saying, like, I'm having a hard time visualizing option 3.
option
Is-
3, this is in the same space. So this is wing B. Here's the elevator. And then
Where's
this
the entrance to the elevator?
entrance is right here. So the
And
sensory room is here, and then this is the main corridor.
Oh, it's the main corridor over there.
Yeah,
Okay,
this is
that's
the
what I knew where.
firewall, and each wing has a little side
Yeah.
corridor that brings you to the exterior.
That's exterior. Okay. got
Except on the second floor, which brings you to a storage room.
it. Yeah. Okay. Got it. Selena.
Rosanna, can I just ask a question about, I mean, don't we have any extra lockers that the students use? Because I know paras typically just grab a locker that's next to the classroom that they're working in.
There's
And it would make
500
sense.
locker
Sorry?
rooms. There's 500 lockers right now. It was sized for the number of students expected. So there could be, but it'd be assuming kids actually use the lockers, you just have to find one. Whereas
Right.
these would be dedicated for them. They know that they're always there. They can put their own lock on there, and every morning they know that this is theirs.
I think we also, I mean, like nothing, no good deed goes unpunished. Every school has 3 building subs. There's other people that are that are in and out. So I think we have to be careful. I'm not saying the paras don't deserve a space. They've always utilized, I had paras in my classroom. They utilized my space where where my stuff was. But
Yeah.
I like the idea of I like the first idea, because if you're working in one grade with one grade, and that doesn't always happen, they do move from place to place, but it just seems like it would take up less space and it wouldn't be as
Are they working usually
clunky.
with like a student or two? Like they walk around with them?
Depends on, yeah, we have some teachers who are one-to-ones. We have some teachers who are 2 to 3 to 1. They could be walking into the classroom, pushing in, offering support. We have some kids who have someone with them all the time. And it's all, it's all different and it changes all the time.
Yeah.
And many of them service more than one grade during the day.
Yeah.
But they're going classroom to classroom typically.
But
they're not
I'm assuming they're not going to their locker between every class like a kid. It's
No,
really just
I
the
hope
beginning
not.
and the end of the year.
It's
That
like putting their
was-
purse somewhere and their keys, like,
Right.
locking it up so they feel
They don't have to go
it's
and get their
secure.
phone and surreptitiously, post to Snapchat.
No.
Yeah, I'd like
So
to
you like option 1 then?
I'd also like to point out option 1, because it's in the print room, that door is lockable, so it'd be double secured as well.
Yeah. I'm fine with that.
Looks
It's
nice.
less intrusive than the other 2 options.
Bless you.
Thank you.
Okay, so option 1.
Yeah, these are all not like, these are, the lockers they don't have the automatic locks built in, right?
We
No.
could
you have to
spec
put
them
your own lock
however,
on there.
I think we would spec them like we did the student lockers with just the eye, and they
Yeah.
provide their own locks.
Yeah.
We'll provide
Yeah,
locks.
that
I'm not
sounds
sure how you
flexible.
guys do it.
Okay. Any other discussion on it? Anyone have any strong objections to lockers in the print room?
So the only cost, Rosanna, would be to add the lockers, right, for this?
The cost of the lockers and the
And there's-
labor to install them.
And there's, what, 3 per print room?
So it'd be
Yeah.
three double tiered,
Double tier.
Yeah.
And how many print rooms do we have?
three, one per wing.
Okay.
It'll be 18 spaces.
And Enza, how many pairs did you say we have in the building?
It depends, actually. I know what we have at the Weston ECS out top of my head, but I don't know what we have at CMS. Blaze, do you know?
I don't
know
know
it's
off the top of my
30.
hand, but my guess is most of them would be utilized. It's particularly if you include the building subs.
Yeah.
I
They
gotta
would
think
be
we have at
definitely
least
utilized.
like 12.
Okay.
They'd be utilized. You have 3 building subs, you have people coming in and out. We have sub paras. Yeah. They would be utilized.
Joe, was nothing else? I mean, that was just an empty wall. The only thing in this
Yeah.
print room is the actual print copy machine.
And the shelving above it.
Oh,
Yes,
okay. Oh,
for the
shelving above
paper,
it.
for the
Yeah,
paper.
that's
I'll
what I was
admit I
saying.
had a little panic attack after I talked to Rosanna because I was looking at the furniture plans and it didn't show the shelving, and then I had to go look at the construction drawings. I'm like, oh,
okay.
thank God the shelving's there.
There's
And
also
make sure it fits. That I have the same panic on every project.
isn't there also a plaque with my name on it, naming it for the my
You
the
want it
memorial?
in the print room?
Joe, those big plans, you might want to change the central office to make sure that they're the right plans. When I was over there today, Dan Brisson had a different plan up that Claudio had up, that the other, it's a good thing Ann Cochiola was there because she knows the whole place by heart, and I know of central office by heart. But
Yeah.
on the big, I think you should just really
Oh, in the trailer?
not in the trailer. It's, you sent it to us in an email,
Yeah.
and the updated where it's the where everything is, the old central office, the way it was planned out is still in there. So today, when we went to visit, it actually, Claudio had pulled that one up. Claudio, what is that called?
Yeah, what the one we were looking at was the first go through before we moved staff around, such as where the finance director was and the HR director. We switched those places around. The general shape was consistent. It's just who was in what office was different compared to what it actually is today, the latest rendition.
I see Chris coming off mute, so I think he could update it per the bulletin.
What it is your overall building plan, Joe, is, I guess, an older overall building plan. When you get into the actual 101A, B, C, D, it's
The park
correct.
plans. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Yes, that just worries me that if it's someone, make a mistake with signage and all of that.
No, we'll make sure we catch that when we get the signage submittal, and that will get reviewed by the district as well for final sign off of room names, numbers, and such.
Okay, are we good here? Any other discussion? All right, let's move this along.
Okay, so little quick update on the Board of Ed procurement process. So we have quotes from the estimate. This has not changed for the state contract. We're slightly over, about $1,400 over. And we are also slightly over now on direct purchases once we confirmed quotes from the different vendors there. So we're looking at, after we rebid the seating, direct purchase, there will be about almost $5,700 over the original budget of $75,000. I think, oops. Forget when I click it, moves it forward. I think last meeting, when Emily was on, we talked about making up the difference out of owner contingency to get to that.
Okay.
Okay, update on photovoltaics. So I think I have a little bit of good news here as well. So we received very late, almost right before the meeting, revised estimate from PAX. PAX has been coordinating with Newfield on the numbers. So the updated estimate with Newfield doing the procurement and construction management of the PV system has us at 1.55 million. You can see the breakdowns here: direct costs, design and estimating contingency, a little bit of a construction contingency. Escalation was able to be dropped to 2% from 4%. There's a pre-construction fee for Newfield, general conditions, insurance, performance and payment bond, and then CM fee. So some of the numbers that we had previously were way higher based on being a GC. And what PAX was estimating. So once we worked it out with Newfield and coordinated and reconciled, we came up with a $1.55 million estimate. Any questions there?
Yeah, we don't know what the Eversource, like, because the rebate and all that stuff, how that plays into all this, right?
Correct. Yes. Yeah. So that I will talk to CES. It's a good point. I know we followed up with Eversource on the rebate process. I think it was early December, so I will follow up with them again and see where we are.
And another random question: we had to put those like walls to hide all the equipment on top of the roof for the town. They
Yeah.
don't care about seeing the PV equipment on top.
So the PV is a very low system. And the way CES designed it, it's going to have a 5% pitch. It's very low. It will most likely not even be visible above the slight parapet that we have.
Okay,
So
got it. So it's almost flat.
yeah, it's
Another
relatively flat. Yeah.
Another Eversource component here is that we don't know for sure how long it'll take them to review the documents and the application. So right now that, tentative dates, the asterisks that Joe has there about when we might be going for plan review and finalize the documents is dependent on when Eversource gets back to the design team. We had originally wanted to have the plan review at the end of January. Current thinking is perhaps the end of February.
That's
so
a
we could bid-
guesstimate.
So we could, yeah, but that is a guesstimate. So in discussions with Newfield, there been any, let's see, we've got some general conditions in there. Is there any concern on implementation timeline, Joe?
You want me to chime in, Jack?
Yes, John, that'd be great.
No, I think the timeline being what it is, we were initially thinking it'd be after or in the fall after the occupancy. We'll have to see how it shakes out, of course, once we get approvals and actually put some hard dates together.
Yeah, we haven't had discussions yet on the schedule that I've worked out here, but I had installation starting in July, which sounds like it could push back to September and meet their schedule.
Yeah, I mean that's not out of the question, out of the question, but we wouldn't want to add a task in that would affect the occupancy or the finishing of the building. So we want to be prudent on what we decide.
And
Yeah.
Newfield will be, on site,
Yeah,
into 26 nonetheless. So
yeah, the cost
should be
is
workable.
purely for the pre-construction effort.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Are we gonna have, if we've got students in the building and we're using the school, are we gonna have room for staging equipment and things to get stuff up on the roof? So if Newfield is knocking down the old school, we're using the new one, but we have space to still be working on the new school.
Yes, well, we haven't actually gotten through all the logistics of how it's going to come together, but we do have
Okay.
operations that fall, and obviously working on the east side of the site, and we'll work it out, and if we have to put a stair tower up, for instance, to get access to the roof, or work off hours, then that'll all be part of our planning and strategy.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, so the two kind of things that are out of our real control is the Eversource review, given a decent chunk of time for that, and honestly, the OGA reviews have seemingly taking much longer than they used to. So right now we only have a month planned for that, but based on the FF&E review and approval, I probably should bump that up to 2 to be conservative. So once we are able to meet with Newfield and go over the schedule in depth, pushing this out to meet the September start would allow for some of that review process to be not as a critical path.
Joe, going back to the slides, sorry, did we submit the application, the interconnection application?
I
Or still
believe
waiting?
we are looking for a couple of items from the town on insurance and a couple other things that CES has submitted paperwork for. So we need to get that back. Once we get that back, then they could submit the application.
Are you waiting for anything from the town?
Yeah, I think it's the insurance requirements. I sent it in an email over, so I could
When'd you send it to
resend
them?
it. It was either early this week or late last week.
All right, if you don't hear back, let us know.
Okay.
Okay.
And Jack, I love hearing about it. So this is eligible for reimbursement, right?
Yes, yes, the
Sorry.
state has been very very encouraging of districts to include PV into the projects as part of the grant funding, and are issuing direct grants just for solar projects.
Awesome.
So we're
Awesome.
we're in a good financial place with that.
Thank you.
Joe, any update? So we had also talked about offline the netting for the soccer field.
Yes. So that'll be another thing that we've kind of been waiting and holding off on discussing that further until we get a decision on the turf field.
Okay.
Both of those items, there would be a little bit of a design effort and specification effort from Richter and Segan on that. Along if the turf field goes, that'll be a significant design. But both those items, in our opinion, would obviously the field, but the netting would have to go back to planning and zoning. So I'd like to get that decision on the turf field, and if that happens, design the netting, present that all at once to the planning department and planning board.
What's the netting thing?
It's to catch the balls. Because right now the property fence abuts the neighboring fences, and there's like very little space there. So between the soccer field and the neighbor's backyard, so any balls could land back there. Hopefully not hit the homes, but possibly.
Was that a concern that came from the neighbor, or?
I honestly don't know where it originated from. I think it was just brought up as a question about, is there going to be any, I guess these nets, you roll them down in the winter and you roll them up in the summer or whatever fall when they're actually being used.
these aren't nets that go on the end of the field, they're on the sides.
The side abutting the property line.
I guess it
It's
depends
like-
on how far away they are from the houses then, because
It's gonna be right on their property line.
it's really close, okay.
That's where our current fence is, right
Okay.
along the property
If it's
line. And
close.
these nets would kind of sit on top of the fence.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it'd be like a separate, kind of like a flagpole system running
Yeah.
down and basically creating a larger fence of netting that could be put up or taken down during games, during practices, left up. I've seen them left up all year round at certain districts. So
But
that's what
not
we
my
would be
backyard.
proposing to meet this requirement or request.
First, I thought they
Okay.
were at the end of the field where the balls are mostly kicked, but if they're on the sides really close, then I can see that too.
And then the last thing, Joe, the signage, the street signage. We had talked about using leftover brick to build up a nice entrance sign, replacing the one that's kind of falling apart right now. A question that I had when we talked about the digital signage, and is Ron on this call?
Yes, Ron is on.
Ron,
I'm
maybe you
here.
can answer this question. When we talked about that digital sign, were we talking about like a full up LED, you can display like pictures type of sign, or were we talking about the scrolling lettering like that the fire department has?
It was the new ones were, I believe they were like a full picture you could do, not the digital letters because the technology has changed.
Okay, because the digital lettering signs are a lot less expensive. And if the school is only looking to put like digital words up, like, hey, welcome back students, that might be a lot more cost effective thing to install.
When I did talk with the sign companies, that was the old technology, and now they weren't going to be supporting that in another year. That the screens that we had were what they were going to be supporting for the next 10 years.
Interesting.
It's,
So I put a question out to the fire department, the fire district, asked them like what they use, because theirs are relatively new, I think.
those are about 8 years old, I think. Yeah.
Really? That old?
Yeah.
Wasn't the majority in the cost just getting wire out to it?
Yes.
Yeah, and that was my other question was I was doing some research and some of these signs are solar powered. You wouldn't even need to put wire out there. You just put like a little mini solar panel on the back of it.
Not for very long.
Not for very long.
The amount of power that you would capture would not keep the sign illuminated.
Oh,
for
right, for the
a long
newer
time.
version of signs, but these old scrolling signs were so low power you could. So I guess I
Well,
just would like to do a little more research on that to see if there's some kind of and then just thinking about because there's no sidewalk there either, and then asking the staff to have to walk through a parking lot. And, it just seemed unsafe to me to have to go there and then put these like hand, cards up. It just it felt very unsafe to me when I was thinking about it. So and if all they're looking for is just words on a screen, we may not need to get anything super fancy to put in there. And they do have scrolling signs everywhere. Like, I don't know a vendor you looked at, but there are vendors out there who are still selling like basic scrolling signage, like marquee type signage things.
All right. Well, I'll rejiggle those guys and we'll look for somebody else. See what we can come up with.
And then Joe, for like the base of it, like using the brick to kind of build it up. What's your plan for that? What's your thoughts?
I haven't looked into that yet.
Okay. All right.
So if it's going to be a digital sign being put on top of it, we'd have to understand what the size of that sign is and what direction, all that stuff.
Yeah. Okay. All right, we'll table that for now then.
I'll
Any
jump
other-
on that one. I'll jump on that one, Rosanna, and we'll try to have something, say a week and a half, see what I can dig up with the vendors.
Okay,
Do we already have a plan for a fixed sign? That, not at all. I mean, should we also consider two options? One that's a digital sign, and then another one that's fixed. We can get costs from signage vendors for both and be able to evaluate both.
Do you
Yeah,
guys
we'll have
decide, I'm sorry, are we putting Cromwell Middle School on the building?
yes.
Yeah, so
We
I
are
thought that,
now.
okay, yeah, because so I thought that was why we were not going to get a stable sign that just said Cromwell Middle School and just
No.
get something
I
less.
think the idea was to use the current sign, but then looking at it, it's looking like it's falling apart. So I don't know if we ever really talked about what we're actually putting in front of the building. Like the brand new building, we should put something, representative of brand new building out front. We never really talked about what was going to go and replace it. We had talked about just replacing it with another sign similar with the card, whatever they have there now. But my concern with that is that because there's no longer a sidewalk along that curb, in bad weather conditions, like having someone trudge up there and replacing cards on a sign seems very unsafe to me. When we could do it just digitally from like someone's computer. And I was questioning, so originally the cost was going to be like over $100,000 to do it all because the cost of the wiring was really expensive and the cost of the sign was like $40,000 just for the sign itself. But do we need a very complicated LED sign, or could we just use a scrolling marquee type sign where you just have like letters on a screen, which I think is all you really need is like letters on a screen. I don't think anything any complicated. You're not going to flash images and pictures and distract drivers. That's not our intent.
No, so would that still be, so my understanding was we have whatever you call that set up for the electricity to go. The sign that
conduit.
yeah, the conduit, that's the word. The signs that we were looking at or thinking are outrageous, but mostly because they're a markup because we're stuck with who we're stuck with, right?
Yeah.
So what you're talking about sounds great, but is that going to be just as costly? I'm just
I don't
asking
know.
because I think
That's what
that's
I'm
a
trying
great
to figure out. I'm trying to figure out what other options we have. Because it's hard for me to believe that no one wants to sell just plain like lettered scrolling kind of boards. And even they're LED. They are LED, but they're not high def. It's not like you're in the middle of Times Square trying to show like imagery. It's just words. So you don't need any like high def
So,
LED screens.
I think we had brought up before, like as a point of reference, what the fire department has. Because I think
Right,
theirs
and
is pretty
I
basic,
asked the
right?
fire
That's
department. Yeah,
pretty
so I
basic.
asked them like, how much did you pay and who did you go to for it? So I'm waiting for that information from them.
Okay.
To
So
see like, who did they go to, how much it cost, how much was wiring for them to do it and all that stuff. And did they, because I felt,
Rosanna, didn't we do this and didn't Ron get all that
Yes.
information for us? And isn't that the $120,000 bill?
so yes, but that was like the state of the art, brand new stuff that they have going now. I'm saying, is there an older generation type stuff that we can use that would meet our needs?
Right.
And
And I went
is
to
there
the
any
same
solar
company.
powered options that we can do that might be cheaper than hard wiring?
Yeah. Well, I did go to the same company that the fire department had, and
Okay.
the signs, the marquee signs that they have, they told me that they weren't going to be supporting those in another year or so. So this was the next version that they had that they were carrying. But I'll dig back into it again and see what they come up with.
When they say they're not servicing them, they mean like if they break down, they're not gonna honor warranty.
They're obsolete. They're
It's
no
like
longer.
it's like an iPad 10, and now you got 14 out. There's a certain limit to how long they support what the technology that they have.
Does anybody actually read those fire department signs? I mean, I personally find them tacky.
Well,
I did. They had like 3,600 visits last year,
yeah.
or they responded to 3,000 something calls.
260 visits in the
Oh,
month
so
of
you
December.
read that as you're driving by at 30 miles an hour?
Yeah.
And then all the
And then
fundraisers they do for Toys for Tot and all that other stuff. I read them all the time, but I like them.
Yeah. And then I did the math. How many calls is that a day, Ken? I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
math and
Well,
driving. Mhm.
I've never
Ken,
designed the scrolling signs. They're ugly as hell.
Ken, you didn't like our sign. If you fail to plan, change your, if your plan, whatever, fails, then change your plan. That was up there for a while.
I never saw that.
It's beautiful with having a stop sign there now. I read it all the
Oh, yeah.
time.
If you fail to
But I
plan,
don't
you plan to fail.
fail, yeah, or something, change your plan, something like that.
All right, let's just do a little bit more digging there.
I just
so
won't
that-
drive that way.
Well, I mean, what do we think is a reasonable, budget for it? If it's
Well, that's the thing.
$100,000 for a
If
digital side, I know you keep saying scrolling. I keep, this isn't like scrolling like a stock ticker.
no,
and it's
no,
not
no,
like
no,
continually
no.
moving.
It's
You're
like
just
it's
saying
like what the
it
fire
can
department
revolve
has,
a
right?
couple messages, just a
So,
couple messages, or source
that's
data.
kind of the question why I was asking Joe what the plan was to, like, forget about the digital, like what would it cost to put like a brick, use leftover brick to put like hold a sign, right? Like if that cost is going to be like 20, like, 20 grand, whatever, adding another 20 grand sign on top of it, it's like, well, you're spending a lot of money just to put the base out there.
That
If
would
I
be a
remember
Chris
correctly, the
John
majority of the
question.
cost was running the power to the sign. It wasn't the
Yeah.
actual sign itself. So
The
if
sign
you're
itself
putting
was
a
like
powered
25,
sign,
$30,000.
so
That's
whether
sign
it's
cost.
25, 30, or 10 or 15, the cost is really into the infrastructure to get a sign there.
Yeah. It was like
And then
50,000-ish for the power, 25, 30 something for the digital, and then the rest was like the whatever to mount it and everything around it.
that's what I'm saying. Only about 20-25% of the cost was the actual sign. The rest was the infrastructure.
Yeah. And that's for, I think also that was for data and power, not just power, right?
It
Because
was just power.
if we don't have to run, if we don't have to run a data line out there, it might be cheaper to run. I don't remember the quote again to see if it included
I don't
the
remember
data.
that it needed data. It just
In
needed power.
in accordance with the bulletin, we were requested to run two 1-inch conduits. One was gonna be for power, one was gonna be for data. And those conduit runs are what the committee approved, and we got them in before the binder course went in. Yeah, I hear you talking about masonry and using excess brick and things of that nature. I know that the brick that we got they were discontinuing one of those colors. I can't remember which one it was. I think it may have been that white color. So there may be issues about getting extra if we don't have enough left over. And I also know that when we get involved in masonry, we still have to pour things such as piers. You're going to spend quite a bit of money just to get that foundation and the actual brick up in the cost of masonry. And I believe, if my memory serves me correct, just a spitball number on that was like $30,000 just for masonry to get the concrete foundation in and put up your pillars.
Yeah.
So Rosanna, I just pulled up one of the estimates that I had to put to put the like the carved sign, that would be up on top, which would be like the Cromwell Fire Department sign.
Yeah.
Or you could put the school sign. That was a little over 6,000. And then the digital message board, which was 2 foot by 4 foot, single side was about 11,000, just under 11,000, and a double sided, because if you were either parallel or perpendicular, the double sided was just shy of 15.
Okay.
So if you put it in the pillars, you're talking, just the sign itself, the two signs you're talking about 17 or 18,000. That only get the sign. That doesn't bring you power out there.
And do you remember how much it was to get the power out?
I'd have to go back to the change order directive.
Maybe if you could just email me that, just so I can see.
Yeah.
I'll do it right now. The breakdown.
I mean, incrementally, that doesn't sound too much for the sign itself. And if we were going to run
Yeah.
electrical, to shine a light on a static sign anyways, you're running the electrical anyhow.
Well, I think you could put like little solar lights if you're just gonna shine a light on something. Like those up lights that people have.
I'm big
But-
on solar. We're putting a 400 kilowatt system on the roof. I don't know if I'm gonna rely on a little solar thing to to prominently shine on a $60,000 sign, but yeah.
All right, let's review. Let me take a look again at what we had, and let's see if we can do something. Talk about it next meeting.
All right, I'll send you that stuff. You'll have that tonight or first thing in the morning, Rosanna.
Yeah, no rush. Thanks.
And Joe, going back to your grid, sorry for the PV. Did I understand correctly that installation timeline was potentially July through September, 4 months?
Sorry, I was
Joe,
muted.
I meant to say Joe. So.
Yep, no, I was muted. I was responding. That's what I had estimated for the time frame, but we'll work with Newfield to get that established fully. And you can see I hedged my bet with 3 extra months. I am not sure how.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if it's gonna. How long
My
it takes. I don't
naive
think it's
guess
that
would have
long.
been like that. This takes like 3 to 4 weeks, but I guess maybe I'm just not appreciating the amount of time that it takes to put it in.
I was being conservative.
Okay. All right. I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
All right, any other questions for Perkins? I'll go to Newfield. Okay, Chris.
Joe, are you gonna bring up the presentation? Not Joe, I mean John. Jack.
You talking to me?
No, I'm talking to you, eh?
Yes, I can share the slideshow here.
Thank you.
All right. Can we see this?
Yes.
What is happening here? Bluebeam is playing tricks on me.
I think if you go up to view it, you can go to presentation mode. All right, so just high level, site utilities, we were able to get the courtyard drainage completed while the weather was with us. We're into a point right now where Mather has left the site. We won't see them again until it warms up or early spring. Steel fabrication, we're in the miscellaneous metals portion of the project now. All of our structural steel has been erected. And that process is ongoing. We're working with Joe through shop drawings. Miscellaneous metals contractor was out on site today, doing field measuring. They're fabricating. We're getting ready to take delivery of some of those fabrications as well as the areas become complete. The roofing, right now, we're just pending the coping and sheet metal fabrications. That process, for the most part, is down the road just a bit because we're trying to get as much brick up as we can so that these guys can come out and field measure and put in substantial amounts at a time. And then the unit, as far as the unit masonry is concerned, we're down to just the locker room / fitness area in the D wing there. All other interior masonry is pretty much complete. They have some patching, stuff like that to do in preparation for the paint, but nothing major. As far as brick masonry is concerned, we've made it all the way up into the corner. It would be the east elevation of C building where the fitness room is. We've come all the way around from the courtyard, which is complete from the north elevation of the A wing, all the way around the media center, all the way around B, and down the north elevation and around the corner into the BOE. So we've made it just about, I'd say, a little bit more than halfway. And they're working diligently. They have 4 crews out there doing everything they can to get the brick up. AVB on the building, they're down to just detailing within the A building window frames. And to tell you the truth, I think he finished yesterday. So AVB for the building is pretty much 96% complete, I'd say. So that's a good thing. Exterior carpentry, the cold form metal framing and sheathing, right about now it's 95% or better complete. They're just finishing up some eyebrows in the elevations around the media center and some of the details that were a little more cumbersome, and we had to have other things in place. I don't see that taking much longer. My interior carpentry item didn't come through for some reason, but I'll hit that under drywall here. Joe is right. The auditorium framing is ongoing. That wall that he had shown the picture of in his report is probably 90% complete now. These guys are working at a fever pace to get our framing in so that we can continue in wall rough-ins. Which brings me to the drywall. Taping is complete on B2 all areas basically. So they've been in there and they've been priming out walls. B1 I'm assuming is going to be complete by Friday. That's what we've been shooting for, which means that he's going to drop down there sooner than later, start priming down there. And their next space to go with drywall is into the robotics coding media center area, which they've started the coding and robotics areas, and they're moving towards the media center right now, as well as the CAO. CAO, most of the hallways and a good deal of the office spaces are underway, if not complete, and they'll head over there and do the taping directly after the media center. Storm piping in the building is all complete. It's primaries and secondaries. Everything's tied in, draining to the TST now. And then the plumbing in wall rough is ongoing in all areas. Primarily, they're in the A wing right now doing the wet wall installs for bathrooms, science classrooms, stuff of that nature. And they're also over in the D wing over near band and choral, finishing up whatever they have to do over in there. And mechanicals, that's a big milestone there, that last part there. All rooftop units are set. They've started doing all of their connections to them now. And the VRFs, which are your local classroom heating cooling units, are all in place and hung. In a building, they're still running line sets, but within the B, C, and D areas, they're all the line sets, which runs the refrigeration, are in and sweat. That work is complete. And then as far as electrical is concerned, they're starting to pull their branch wiring through their conduit runs now in all areas. They're building out main electrical room. More gear is coming every day. We're getting panel back boxes and all the satellite electrical rooms. It's really starting to come together now. Slide.
Chris, when is our main switchgear due?
The last piece that we're looking for is the actual main distribution. which was supposed to ship on Friday. I'm being told that there is a slight delay, but that we are going to be receiving that last piece of the main gear before the end of the month. And that will get us into a better position to start pulling primaries, which we're shooting for in February. As far as the construction progress is concerned, like I said, installation of storm drainage and sanitary sewer, that's all on hold for now, pending weather. Tri-state materials testing has been on site as these guys are doing the masonry, CMU, and brick. They're checking your reinforcement placement as well as testing the mortars with cubes, making sure that we're hitting what we need to. Freeman Companies has been out monitoring the stormwater plan after every rain event and haven't had any real hiccups with them on that. And then the contaminated soils, it says that final documentation checks is being performed now. We had a meeting just before the new year to make sure that we all understood what needed to be done to make sure that that material leaves the site prior to spring. And I believe there's only two more questions that need to be answered by Pannoni. We've been on them for that, and they're working with us. So we're pretty much almost to the end of that hurdle now. And the key point on that is we do have a disposal facility. We know where we're sending it. Everything's good. We're just dotting the i's and crossing the t's now. In the design process, Joe hit the nail on the head. We are doing submittal and RFI review with them. Our little Monday afternoon huddle has helped us through this process immensely, I believe. And we're going to continue to do that as long as we need to. SES is out here. They're viewing your AVB. They're viewing your the finished roof. They're viewing all of the things that they should be under their contract. They're issuing reports in a timely manner, and we're addressing those in a timely manner as well. There haven't been any major deviations. Perkins Eastman already gave you the FFE technology update. And as far as SWEZAC is concerned for special inspections, there's only one item open. It's more of a leftover kind of I guess you call it an aesthetics thing, but it has to do with some end caps up on the roof that we're working through. That isn't really a major issue at this point in time. So I feel good with where we're at with structural special inspections. And then the Eversource easement obviously is in process with them, and we've received confirmation that that is going through. So slide.
So Chris, on that Eversource easement, you had mentioned when the gear comes in, we can start pulling primaries. Or when are we expecting the system to be energized? Is it still dependent on the easement? Is the easement a wild card, or do we have a schedule from Eversource?
No, easement is still wild card. I'm saying pulling primaries in February because I'm hoping that before the end of February, we can make it through this process with them. And that would still put us, we had originally stated that gear was landing in April. That still puts us at least a month and a half ahead of schedule for that electrical portion of.
Thank you.
2-week look ahead. I kind of gave you the synopsis of this. I'll let you guys go through it on your own. If there's any additional questions, let me know. But I kind of hit each item as we were going through that top level to give you an idea of where we were heading and where we were at right now. So you can blow through the next 6 slides here if you want. Unless there's any specific questions. Go back one, Jack. Sorry. I will hit the highlights on these miscellaneous activities. So ceilings are actually starting next week on B2. And then the millwork millwork is gonna start showing up on site within the next 2 weeks. That 20th date may slip to the 27th. We're still pinning that down right now. But that's a great thing. You're gonna start seeing these spaces really come together here now. Also, the flooring contractor was out on site today doing measurements, taking floor temperature readings, doing his probes for moisture, getting ready to make his deliveries for a 127 start date as well up on the B2. And then this is great stuff down here. The last two, the kitchen cooler freezer is coming on the 13th, and then the hood is going to come 2 days after that. That's all confirmed. So the kitchen is going to start coming together as well. So
Chris, once the everything's done with mechanicals on the roof, is there an inspection, a thorough inspection on the roof for any types of, when they leave screws on the roofs and things like that for leakage? Do they do a
yeah,
thorough on it?
after we're done up there and after the coping goes on, John, we'll have the Carlisle rep out. He's gonna walk the whole thing down. He'll mark out any deficiencies. They're gonna look at the entire roofs for exactly what you're talking about.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Chris, do we have any concerns over climate control if we're going to start accepting millwork materials?
No, and we actually talked extensively about that today. The materials that we have and the controls that we have right now in place for temperature all appear to be holding, and there's no concern at this time.
Thank you.
Yeah, Chris, the other piece that you may want to point out, the progress that's been made in the gymnasium also. I mean, there's a lot of work that's happened in there, and that's looking good with the.
Yeah, I got a picture here in the photos,
Okay.
and I was going to go through that
Okay.
for sure. So I got you a couple of the highlights here. That picture on the left, that's our most complete elevation. Those windows are all caulked in, glazed, working, functional, the whole shooting match. That brick has been washed, and that's that south elevation of the B2. So if you want to get a good idea of exactly what this building is going to look like, that's where you're going to want to look. The picture on the right is the north elevation. I'm just showing you that we have made it around the corner. Brick is complete, sills are in, windows are going. Everything's moving in accordance with our sequence that we had talked about originally in the start of the project. Slide. That's the north elevation of A. They were actually starting to install punched window openings into those masonry openings this week. So as previously stated, we're doing everything that we can to get out of that courtyard so that when the weather breaks, they can get going in there. And we can get out of that area and start moving around the north side of the building. The picture on the right is your amphitheater seat walls. Foundations and walls have been placed. They're sitting there and ready for brick when we get to that point in the spring. Go ahead. Those are your mechanical units that have been set on each one of the penthouse areas there. Nothing really else to say about that. Slide. That's your finished taping of the walls on the left. That's B2. By the end of the week, B1 will look like that as well. And then I took that right picture just so you could see that we started priming walls on Monday. And to tell you the truth, we walked through there this afternoon, and almost all of the I'd say south side of B2 has been primed out. So they're making good time up there. Those are hard ceilings that are being framed within your bathroom areas. That's a good sign. That means that we're getting close to closing up and getting these finished spaces finished for you. The one on the right is the CAO. That's the hallway looking west to east. So your doorway into the BOE is down the hallway and on the right there. So they're moving through there quite rapidly as well. Slide. Jim, that's your picture on the left. We've installed all of the acoustical panels up high. We've primed out all of the walls in there, and he's been doing dry fall paint in there all week. We anticipate being complete with the dry fall paint as far as we can by the end of this week. That will allow our mechanicals to start going up. All of our conduit runs, your HVAC ductwork, all of that stuff is going to be starting next week in the gym. And then the two pictures, center and right, are of the back wall of the gym in the center, not the gym, the auditorium, and the actual stage area on the right. They're making great time in there right now. Slide. As I had noted before, you can see that your conduit pathways and wire pulls are ongoing. Center is your IDF closet. That's within the B1 area right before the firewall into this two-story part of the building. They're starting to pull all their data cable back, getting ready for the acceptance of that technology package. And then on the right-hand side there, our water heaters have been placed. Now we got to obviously make all connections to it, but we're starting to fit out that room now. Boilers should be coming sooner than later, and start seeing some real action within there. But once again, that's all dry fall painted on the ceiling. And those walls are all painted as well. So they'll have to go back and touch up, but that work is complete for now. And then this is a building, just showing you that we're moving along with our line sets for refrigeration, in wall rough for plumbing. And I was actually standing in that room where that center picture was taken today. That entire wall is now framed. It's crazy to see that within 3 days, rooms are completely changing right now, but that's how it is. And then your ductwork runs, main fire protection, fire alarm, everything is running down the corridor now and branching out into all the rooms.
Any questions for Newfield?
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, it looks great. A lot of progress in last month.
Once the boilers are,
Ken, you're breaking up.
When
Oh,
I'm
you mute.
You're on mute, Ken. I can't hear you. You gotta unmute yourself.
how about now?
Yep.
Okay. Once the boilers are on site and installed, what's the time frame to tie it into the piping in the system and use internal heat rather than the propane?
That's going to be an ASAP kind of situation because we actually wrote it into our contract where we were going to be utilizing permanent systems for heating and cooling. So these guys know that they're under the gun, and as soon as they get those in, they got to be doing the work. Time frame wise and giving you lead, it's we can talk. Can we talk more about that tomorrow?
Sure. I'm just looking for an estimate. Are we talking 2 months or are we talking 4 months?
It's on the lower end, but I don't want to hold myself to anything right now, only based on how things have been coming to the site and how things are being put together. But they are well aware that when we get into those summer months, that the AC and the units are supposed to be running to condition the space. So, and that's what we're shooting for, Ken.
Okay, very good.
Yep.
All right, moving forward on project financials, our typical information flow, project summaries, budgets, and contingencies. Right now, we have encumbered majority of our project 61 versus the $68 million. We've got unencumbered of 6.9 on the middle school, which includes furniture technology purchases not yet committed into purchase orders, as well as contingency dollars. We received almost $4.9 million in reimbursement from the state. And at the end of December, the next drawdown was submitted in less than a week. We received approval for that, and we'll be getting cash into the town by mid-February. Emily sets this up as almost a paint by numbers document, which expedited the approval. So we're in very good cash flow position for the next payment. For the middle school, for the central admin, our unencumbered amount is 807. Again, that's contingencies, furniture, and technology that have not yet been purchased. In this unencumbered amount, I'll mention for the middle school, that includes our monies that we sequestered from our bid savings. That's also part of the 68, but that's in a separate line, as you'll see as we move into budgets, where we have bid savings here, 3.1 sequestered separately from the owner's contingency, which as of the first of the year stood at just about 2.1 million. For central admin, we had modest bid savings of 600,000. Owner's contingency is currently running approximately $140,000. And the highlighted areas are those whose values have changed within the last month, either by changing budgets or by making expenditures, paying bills. Owner contingency right now sits at, as I said, just short of 2.1 million for the middle school and about 140 for central admin. And we have our breakdowns of each transfer in and out of contingency and the reasons therefore. First for middle school, then for central admin.
And then Jack, once we get through the FF&E and accept those bids, will we see the approximately 290 or some odd thousand bid savings versus budget kind of increase the
Yes,
line?
any savings will be reflected back into this budget where we will see the savings,
bid savings, yeah.
harvested from the individual line items and put back into owner contingency.
Yeah.
And speaking of contingency versus bid savings, our office has been in contact with finance for the town. They're having some conversations going on about, what do we project the solar system to cost. We were being very conservative with the numbers that we shared, to aggregate all expenses, including design fees. I think with the revised numbers that Joe gave earlier this evening, we'll see if we have a chance to update Sharon on that and bring that target number down, showing what would be available to go into a turf field. So we're actually in slightly better position to be able to fund the turf field than we were 24 hours ago. Moving forward to our invoices for approval, we have 4 items for Tri-State. We have the Arcadis monthly bill. We have the requisition for the month of December from Newfield, split into two documents, one for the middle school, one for central admin. Why this is not showing the 3.2 million over here, I'm not quite sure. I believe the bottom line is accurate, but for some reason that number didn't carry across to the right column. So we have 4 Tri-State, 1 Arcadis, 2 Newfield invoices, total value for approval individually as shown, aggregating to $3,511,402.37. And we ask your approval.
Your motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, give up. Thumbs up. Thank you.
Thank you. I had mentioned that we have submitted a drawdown. We are going to get another 3 million or so in cash, over 3 million in cash for the middle school. Due to the small size of the overall grant value for central admin, we're limited to the number of draws that we can take. We anticipate that we'll be asking for some cash in second quarter of this year. So we're just a few draws on the small budget, but we do expect to be going for monies approximately every 2 months for the middle school.
Okay. Any questions for Jack? Joe, I forgot to ask earlier, for the change order meeting tomorrow, are you gonna present an updated estimate for the media center electronics AV system?
We were able to issue today recommended scope reductions or possible scope reductions that we could review, but I actually was looking at my calendar. I don't have a change order meeting in my schedule for tomorrow.
I was just about to say that I canceled.
Oh, you canceled it?
Yeah, the reason being is Joe and I were going back and forth on some comments. We have some last minute revisions that we need to do to some of these. I did move to tomorrow's meeting to next Thursday. So
Okay, so can we talk it next Thursday then?
yes, for sure. And I saw Joe, I saw your reductions there. I'll see what I can do about getting a good number on that for next week.
Just for everyone's awareness, the original quote was, I think, in my opinion, oversized for what we needed for the media center. So we asked them to go back and really say, like, what do we need? We don't need 2 cameras and 15 microphones. Oh, so Joe went back and asked for a reduction scope, and that's hopefully we're gonna go over next week. All right, anyone have anything else they want to bring up or talk about? Any other issues?
No, I did want to thank you for the sweets and treats prior to Christmas. Thank you for coming out and doing that. The guys enjoyed that and really appreciated it. And I think the partnership has been going well, and things like that go a long way for these guys. So thank you again.
Okay. All right. Wait, the dog is. Oh, you see him. Anything else anyone have? All right. Good night, everyone. See you next
Good night, guys.
Night.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right.